Hey guys, I'm Rachel O'Leary, and today we're up in my living room to take a look at this little Fluval 5-gallon spec. Now, last week I asked you guys if you thought I should break it down or keep it going, and honestly, I'm still really on the fence. But I think what I am going to do for sure today is give it a bit of a makeover. There's a lot going on this week. I have an exciting birthday present coming, and my shipping lists have been insane, and it's raining like crazy. So figured today is as good a day as any, since I'm stuck inside, to give this thing a major haircut and maybe stick some new plants in there. So let's get started. Now, this aquarium has been extremely low maintenance. However, the hydrocotyledon I had in there has sort of been overpowered by moss that volunteered, and this narrow-leaf Java fern has shaded out my dwarf hairgrass entirely. There's also a bunch of subwassertang, which is a liverwort in here that I didn't intend to ever be in here. So today we're just gonna pull a bunch of stuff out and try and fix things up a bit. It's an easy tank. By the time I move upstairs, I don't really feel like maintaining an aquarium. So I'm just gonna pull out a bunch of plants, do a water change in incremental steps so that I can clean up the substrate and kind of decide what I'm doing from there. I'm going to leave some of this moss, but I'm going to pull a lot of it out. And I definitely need to get rid of some of this narrow leaf because it has just taken over, which is a good problem to have, except for when it shades out your other plants. You can see that's a pretty hefty amount of narrow leaf, and that's only a small portion of it in such a small aquarium. And then here's all this little bucephalandra floating up. Even more. And I'll save all these plants for another aquarium. But for now, we're gonna get this one straightened out. Look at all of this. I'll show you how much actually grew in here after I get it all removed. It's done a good job of infiltrating the wooden rock in here, which is almost completely invisible. There we go. I think that is all of it. Now, this plant is one that's appropriate for this size tank, but I kind of want the wood to be a bit more visible, as well as the rock, instead of it all just being shaded. There's even more. It's incredible. So this tank has been running since July of last year, at which time I had put in a pretty small starter portion of this narrow leaf. And narrow leaf is probably my favorite easy rhizome plant. But this is how much grew in that time. I mean, that is a substantial chunk. Which means it was happy, but I don't want it in this aquarium anymore. So we'll set that aside, as well as a lot of this moss. And I am making a huge mess. Nothing new there though, huh guys? Before I drop the water line, I'm also going to trim up a lot of this moss. It's just sort of unruly looking. And it's hiding all my cool little buces. And again, I never intentionally put any moss in here. So this is all, there was probably like one little frond stuck in with some other plant. And it just took over. The same with the subwassertang, but the subwassertang, that liverwort stuff, stays a little more compact, so I may leave it. And no matter my best effort, I'm sure there'll be some moss left in here. Here you can see the sort of neat structure of the subwasser tang. I'm just going to drop the water line a bit. And with doing a small tank like this, I'll pinch the end of the hose so that the suction isn't too big, so I don't drain it completely. Because I just want to get most of the detritus and junk off the surface. Right now, all I'm doing is trying to pull off all the plants that are hiding the wood so that I can see what structure I'm working with here to be able to revamp this aquarium. There is a little bit of hair algae growing on the knuckles of the wood, but I honestly don't mind that. There is so much liverwort in here. Unbelievable. Pull out this Anubias bonsai to replant. So I may leave this chunk of subwasser tang up here at the surface just because it's kind of neat, though I'm going to pull some of it out so it's not quite as huge. Sort of reminds me of the little floating garden that was in my 150 for the longest time. I always think it's neat when plants sort of are opportunistic like that. It is really just everywhere, though. And instead of being able to see all my beautiful Anubiases and stuff, all we see is subwasser tang. My word. There's a surprising amount of plant matter in this little tank. So I've removed all the plant. You can see how much was in here. That's all the narrow leaf. And this is all the Anubias and subwasser tang that was in this little tiny tank. And now we can see that there's actually quite a nice piece of driftwood in there. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and put back some Anubias and some more Bucephalandra and replant some of the hair grass that I found in various parts of the tank. And then fill it back up and do a couple water changes to really clear things up. So I brought up some Bucephalandra Mini Catherine. It's a super teeny one. Just going to stick that around in a few places. And it's slow growing. I did a species spotlight on Boost for you guys in the past. It's a neat little plant. Then I'll just stick some, you know, the goal for this aquarium will be for it to be exceptionally low maintenance, since I tend to not really get to maintain it the way I would like. Again, my schedule is just so hectic, it's hard to make this little tank a priority. So I'm hoping I can set it up in a way that it'll just look nice but not require hardly any work. Now I have a feeling this moss and subwasser tang will be a pretty constant battle in this aquarium. And again, it's not a big deal when I have time to actually get in here and do something with it, but when I haven't had time, it's a bit of a pain. And I am hoping that this hair grass will sort of fill back in over time, now that it's not completely shaded, but we will have to see. I'm gonna fill this back up so I can see what I'm working with. So in front of the tank, we have all the plants that I pulled out and didn't put back. I think it's a pretty incredible quantity. In fact, it doesn't even look like it should physically be able to fit into a 5-gallon tank. So I guess you could say whatever I did with this aquarium was successful. Now let me show you how it's set up now. Now please keep in mind it needs to grow in for at least a month. So basically what I've done is pull out all the narrow-leaf java fern, as much of the moss as possible, as much as that liverwort or subwassertang as possible, and then put back in all of the bucephalandra as well as the anubias, and replant the sparse hairgrass that survived in there. There is still a small crypt in the back right corner, and my Echinodorus rennie, or that little red sword, had split into two. So I planted one in the back left corner and one over on the right hand side. And now we really just have to wait. It's probably going to take a solid month or so for this to look better. All of these plants that are left in here are very slow growing, very easy to maintain, and we'll cover this wood over time. However, I do like that we can see that I actually have wooden rock in this aquarium now, whereas before the plants were so thick you really couldn't tell at all. Anyway, we'll see how it does. If I don't like it, I'll probably just take the entire tank down. One other thing I should probably mention is I threw in this little house plant that I've been prepping for a wabikusa forever, mainly because I took out so much plant bulk from this aquarium that I was really nervous it would become an instant algae farm. So I've just stuck this little guy in here to use up some of the nutrients, because I did reduce the plant mass in this aquarium by at least 3/4. So hopefully it'll help. If not, it's keeping it prepped for if I ever get around to that wabikusa project. UPS strikes again. Apparently their policy is that no freight shipments can go down a driveway. So my birthday surprise has to be loaded into my husband's truck. And he's not supposed to be lifting anything. So, you know, this should be interesting. But this is probably the best birthday gift I've ever been given, despite UPS. Now, it was supposed to be a surprise because my birthday is tomorrow, but kind of had to tell me so that we would be here. Where there's a will, there's a way. How we're gonna get these 700 pounds of greenhouse pieces out of the truck, I'm not entirely sure of. But it's an awesome, awesome gift. So you guys probably have guessed that it is a greenhouse. We still have those other hoops, but my husband decided to surprise me with a really nice greenhouse that we're gonna be installing in the next couple weeks.